Hey everyone, welcome to Murder Moose.
Moose. Oh, that already happened, right? Oh, sorry.
I always put it in at the very
I love
beginning,
it. I fucking love it. It blends in now. It's so perfect. Rod, you're a genius.
I do what I can. I don't know about genius, but I try to
You're a genius. Take it.
I'm trying, Josh. I don't take compliments very well. I take them
I
as
love
like,
you, Rod.
I love you too, Josh.
Wait.
I love
My
you,
name
man.
is Josh, and this is Murder Moose.
Murder Moose, part of the Slashing Cast Podcast Network.
Holy shit. I said
sheep. It is. It's kind of amazing. Josh and I went on. We've had guests on this podcast, but we went 4 weeks in a row with guests, and so this is me and Josh flying solo for the first time in a little while. So, and I don't think I have any direct plans for guests at this moment. I mean, we're always open, right?
It's awesome. This is what I love about our show, though, because it's fun. We have a shit ton of fun. If you couldn't tell, we fucking love doing this. But we try to make it the exact same situation while we have guests on. We're not changing a thing. We're here to bullshit. We're here to have fun. We're here to talk about some really cool fucking indie and foreign movies. That's it. And like when people come on, they have their own things where they put in a lot of time and effort into like note taking, blah, blah, blah. Do whatever you got to do. We're not going to hold you back from what you want to do. But everyone has such a fun time that everyone has said, I can't wait to come back. Every single one of them. And I love that so much. And I can't wait to have them all on again, too. It's just it's a fun time, man.
I mean, it was funny because Katie talked about it last week, or Katie hasn't seen that, and she's like taking notes the whole time, and she's like, I don't need to take notes. And we're like, no, not how this.
Like,
I mean, if you want, we're not gonna hunt you down and like kick you in the shin for taking notes. But yeah, it's not completely, which is the only problem that ends up coming to it. Sometimes I'm like, well, did this happen at this point or this? And I don't even think taking notes is going to change that, because you're like, with my ADHD brain and your ADHD brain, we're both like bouncing off the fucking walls and going, oh, okay, maybe.
Yeah, but I got to bring something up, though, because if anyone knows, I've talked about it several times. My favorite movie of all time has a significance to this day because of the movie, because on this day, in 1988, Zero Cool crashed 1,507 systems in one day. The biggest crash in history. Hacked the fucking planet.
I saw that on Twitter today, and I was trying to figure out what it had to do with like dates and time, because
I've got a record. I was Zero Cool.
God, that movie is as 90s as you can get, man. It is so like good. 90s dripping. He's got 90s sweaty drippy balls, and it's perfect. And then Josh it's so 90s, would chop his 90s neon. It's so 90s that its penis has like, you would like a boner and you would like wrap it with one of those wrist wrap things that you from the 90s.
I have one of those just over there because I got two daughters. So like, I don't put
it
on his dick. No.
Why not? You put it on the 90s dick because Hackers is that 90s. That's why. That's why, Josh. That's why.
Are you bringing up chopping dicks already?
I mean, we're like 3.5 minutes in. We're way into chopping dick territory. Chop. Josh keeps coming into my Twitch stream when I'm playing like samurai games, and he's like, "Are you chopping dicks?" And I'm like, "Yep."
If you have a samurai sword, you better be fucking chopping dicks, or else you're doing it wrong.
You're doing it wrong.
You're doing it wrong. I know.
You're doing it when you take an opportunity to chop off a dick.
So
you don't do it.
Did you watch the new Suicide Squad?
Yes, and I fucking loved it.
Fucking A. I'm so like Ben and I. So Ben was on the show a few weeks ago. Ben and I went to the theater the day before it came out, because every movie just comes out on demand now. But we make sure to go the day before, so at least we're seeing it before everyone else. And go on the Thursday night. There's still 8 people. 8. It's the Suicide Squad. I thought, if anything, oh man, this is gonna be a crowd. I might be uncomfortable. 8 fucking people. That's it. Like, is our theaters going under, man? Like, is this the thing, the wave of the future?
Well, the thing, I don't know if you saw it. There were people talking about it this weekend, and it was like, well, why did Suicide Squad bomb at the box office? Because no one's going to the fucking movie theaters. It's like every single, like, I feel like all these theaters are sitting there now, and like that you would have, like, you know, say your screen, your movie theater has 12 screens. Like, it's all like now, like you have big theaters and like 7 screens are showing Fast Furious 9, right? Like, and that's all. They don't have like variety and stuff, and there's still a comfortable like thing. And we're in the midst of a surge also with the whole Delta variant. I mean, the U.S. is so fucked right now because of like everyone in this country is a fucking idiot, or not everyone, a large percentage, like nearly half of this population are fucking morons. So I bet there's a bunch of people who are just I think there's like the smarter people are hesitant still about going out. I mean, I don't go out very much to this point, and I've been vaccinated since I got my second shot on like May 1st. Like, it's been a long time. So I think that all has a lot to do with it. And also, why am I going to pay $30 to go see it, like with me and my wife, when I have HBO Max and I could just go watch it on HBO Max? I
watched it the next day again for free.
Yeah.
Like,
If
Alamo
Drafthouse was open, I would probably be going to watch these things where I could. But man, I have to say, there's a couple things. I love John Cena as Peacemaker so much. It's one of my favorite things ever. Even though he's kind of a dick.
Sylvester Stallone stole that fucking movie, though.
I know.
The shark was, but he
has.
You could see James. Whoa, yeah,
Gunn.
James Gunn's like isms all over that. Like I came up obsessed with his movies. Like, no one went and saw what the fuck?
Super?
No, not
Slither.
Super. Slither. No one went and saw Slither when I did, but I've always been a huge horror buff. Like, that movie theater was not packed. And he did the same thing that he did in Slither in this, where the slugs, but now they're starfish, attach and make you zombies. And I love that. It's such a James Gunn like ism. And then he did the thing where he did the Groot thing so well in Guardians of the Galaxy that he did the shark thing so well in this one. He has his like packages of what he knows he can accomplish in his writing, producing, directing bag of tricks, which is now so huge and so I don't know, like he just gets what an audience wants to see, especially in an R-rated film, because of his background with horror and stuff. So the fact that he got to just make a James Gunn film was perfect. It was perfection for all the characters, the ones he killed off, how fast, how funny, and the ones that didn't die and you thought died. Hilarious, man. Like, he freaking knocked it out of the park. Loved it.
He killed it. It's visually, the guy can, like, aesthetically, the guy just has an eye for movies. I mean, we all know that, but then, like, it's stuff like the comedy, like, he sets up these, like, jokes that are, I don't know if how many people directing nowadays can pull him off to have the patience that he does, like, to tell these jokes. Like, we're not spoiling anything, but the Harley Quinn with the dictator scene is like, it's like that like you keep waiting and waiting and waiting for it, and then like, and you're
the
like,
payoff is so good.
And it's the payoff, and he does that over and over again, and like the characters in that movie that are so good, like the Polka Dot Man was amazing. Also, I really love his whole story arc in that movie. King Shark obviously is like the best character, and then Idris Elba, who is also playing
He's
Knuckles.
Awesome in everything he does.
They announced today he plays Knuckles in the Sonic 2 movie.
Yeah, I'm stoked, man.
It's so good, and just like, I mean, Harvey played by what do you call her? Is just so, she's amazing. She's always been awesome in that character. This is the third time she's played Harley. So it's like, there's just so much of that movie, and he just was allowed to be him, and had, I think this is the thing, Warner Brothers, for the first time in I don't know how long, because it was James Gunn, didn't go and stick their fingers in and interfere, which was one of the reasons why that movie's so friggin' well done. So it's
Warner Brothers is usually like known for meddling as well.
I mean, that's the David Ayers thing where he's so pissed because they fucked with his final cut of that movie, the original Suicide Squad movie, so badly. And I believe it because that movie wasn't like everything else that guy had done was good, man. That Fury movie was like a little hard to watch with like it's very intense, but like the Tank movie with Brad Pitt and Shia LaBeouf and everything like that was a pretty fucking Shia LaBeouf. I don't know what the fuck his name is. The crazy kid. You can do it. That the guy. He's just a walking GIF meme at this point. But
he did that on purpose, and it worked for him though.
Yeah, it did. So yeah, it's a lot, but like, man, he really did kill it. And, I watched something else this weekend, Josh, and I have to say, I saw Spiral.
You finally watched it?
I finally watched it, and I have never called out a killer as quickly as I did in that movie. I swear to God, I'm sitting there and like the character who's the bad guy in the movie walked in, and I'm like, that's him. And I was 1,000% correct. And I'm like, God damn it, guys. And I think you pointed out.
Oh, yeah. I pointed out a whole bunch of bullshit with that movie.
But Chris Rock's acting is just
a roller coaster. Because there's scenes where I'm like, oh, hey, yeah. Because he did good in Fargo. Like, it's a very similar character, but you can tell the whole team with Fargo just is better directors than what kind of Spiral had to work with, I guess, or just the whole team in general. Fifth season, everyone else that's in that movie's show is amazing as well. So like seeing him go from Fargo and me being like, I still don't 100% believe him because he's this skinny Chris Rock. And I can't ever take him seriously as being like the tough guy that you're going to be like, oh no, don't hurt me. It's Chris Rock. Like he might break his arm if he tried to slam it down on a desk or something.
Yeah. And like he's like, he fucks with it. Like he's always just like, no, I'm the standalone detective, blah, 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 the whole movie. And you're like, but you're Chris Rock and you got this weird goatee beard thing. And like, I don't know if
I liked parts of it. Like some of the gags were really well done.
Yeah,
but that's like, whatever.
I didn't hate the movie. I just was like, when you call something that early on, I'm just like, God, guys, you made it so fucking obvious. And it's just like, it just sucks because I really hate that you took a franchise that really was, I mean, like what it did with that movie, the original Saw kicked off James Wan and what do you call him? The other guy, whatever his name is. No, the other director guy. The guy who was the other guy, like, chained down. The guy who directed Upgrade and all that stuff. Ali and Invisible Man.
He did some of the Insidious movies and stuff. Didn't he do one of the Conjuring ones now, too, or something? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think
he's done a whole bunch, but
he did Invisible Man and whatever.
Oh, right. Upgrade. Yeah, which was awesome, too, by the way.
Yeah. But and then you take it and then you just became into like the most like milking a franchise. I mean it's up there. Like Saw is almost up there with it's I kind of can compare it to like Halloween almost. Like it's better. It was handled better than like say like Hellraiser. Like Hellraiser movies are just garbage after 2 and 2 has questionable endings. But like that movie just like this series like as a whole is just like iffy at best for most of those movies, and you're just like, eh. So that was like a lot with it was those two things. I mean, I saw there was a lot being added to Shudder. I'm gonna have to check out this weekend. They've added a lot of werewolf movies actually, which is kind of cool. So there's a lot to go in there, and then I got a screener for a movie called Sleepwalk Kill, which I'm interested to go check out because I think they started following me on Twitter because of horror stuff, and then they were sending out horror like these codes. So maybe we even talk about that at some point. But I would like. I have a
screener to go watch tomorrow for Free Guy.
Free Guy. Oh, the Ryan Reynolds movie. I saw. I watched part of a review for it, and it sounded pretty good. So I'm like, cool.
Dude, I like the cast. I like the premise. Ninja's in it, so hey, let's go see Ninja.
Does it mean there's no women in the movie because Ninja doesn't work with women?
His wife was probably on set the entire time going, "Don't look at her. Yeah. Why are you looking at her?" No.
Yeah.
Is that their relationship? Is that what's going on there? I have no clue.
I don't know. Years ago.
Yeah, I know the.
Yeah, that happened and everything. So, yeah, it was a lot of shenanigans, but yeah, that movie does look good. It does. And we're getting here, man, and it's August, and so we got a couple of the big horror movies that are coming out here pretty soon. I mean, we got Halloween Kills, which, as you said, has like.
We've already seen it, so.
Yeah. I hope. I really, really hope that movie does like. It is good because that trailer was one of the most like. I've never seen a trailer that for a horror movie show that many kills. I like never.
Not and once. I was like, that looks. Wait, done. Yeah, it looks like I've seen the movie. What the fuck?
Why did you took out the gore stuff that us horror hounds want and you put it all in a 2-minute trailer, huh? What? So yeah.
At least the sounds were good.
Yeah, I mean definitely. I mean we talked about it plenty. That movie is hopefully is dope because they got one more coming out next year. So I mean and then we'll see. We should probably take bets on how long it's going to take before there's another Halloween
reboot
franchise. Yeah, reboot
well, look
again.
At Batman. Like, they can't not do a Batman, so they're doing a Batman because the Batman one they already had on slate pulled out. But now Ben Affleck's like, "Oh yeah, I'll be Batman again. Cool for the Flash movie." And it's like, wait, there's already another Batman movie in the works. So now there's like every Batman coming back because Spider-Man's doing it. And Warner Brothers is like, fuck, we got to double down. We got to find a way to multiverse this shit.
Yeah, we got the whole Michael Keaton being Batman again.
I'm really stoked. Birdman.
Which is funny.
Batman.
Yeah,
I'm stoked.
I was going to say, because if you've never seen Birdman, it's just basically Batman without calling him Batman. And
I love it.
It's, yeah. But yeah, so there's a lot going on, man. And we have a lot of interesting things coming up to talk about, so.
He's old now. He could just be called I Hurt My Back, man.
I hurt my back. That's why you set up the whole like Batman 2099 or Batman Beyond. Yeah, Batman Beyond. 2099 is a Spider-Man thing, Marvel thing. I think.
They're doing that too.
Are they doing that too? I don't know. Like I know they're doing they're doing the second Into the Spider-Verse, and then they're doing
2099 as well. Yeah.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. There's so much shit going on. So I also started watching Sweet Tooth over the weekend, and the show was cool and like beautifully done. We only watched one episode, but man, I was like, this show might be a little too depressing for me right this exact second because it's very bummy, like it's an apocalypse TV show, right? Like so everything is fucked up. So, but
I've been watching Ted Lasso.
Which I heard really good things out.
Oh, yeah. Such a good. It's like the easiest, breeziest show to watch. Like Apple did a great job. It's only like 28 minute, like 30-minute show. So you're just like super bingeable. He's such a lovable character, and like every other character. I don't know. It's really like nice light snack of a show.
Any new horror things you've dove into over the last week or so?
What did I watch?
Josh is like.
Also, Suicide Squad. Yeah.
Fuck that random dude who's gonna get to be the host of Jeopardy, who isn't LeVar Burton. Fuck him. He sucks, and he is supposedly a creep too, and nobody's ever heard of him.
Well, I watched Jungle Cruise, which is not horror, but it was
I heard
Disney.
That is actually on Rotten Tomatoes, The Rock's highest rated movie of all time. So,
and it's because he's finally not The Rock for once.
Isn't he always The Rock?
No, they didn't like rock him up. They just made him like, because if you have Emily Blunt in a movie, she's going to outshine fucking everyone with how good she is at just being in anything. So like, she's fucking Emily Blunt. Like you can't outshine her. She's just a shiny golden goddess.
That's why everyone like asks, what do you call him? Like John Krasinski. How did she marry you? So, okay. So let's dive into our movie for the week. We are talking about this week the Shudder exclusive, I guess, is how to put it, because Shudder does this thing where they both like sponsor movies, but they also like pay to get them released on there, and then they like also like will like after a movie's been around for a while, will sometimes just pay it and they'll say streaming only on Shudder. But this is I think Shudder did something with the rights to streaming it, like, and
didn't they do that with some other ones too? But yeah, this one's Vicious Fun. Sorry, I cut you off. Vicious
No, you're fine.
Vicious.
I think
Fun.
I think they've done that with like the stuff we've talked about. I think The Dark and the Wicked is like that. The Anything for Jackson was like that, which who has a reoccurring character on here that we were talking about before we started. It's got the
Julian
Richings. Yeah,
he's
okay.
He's in so many Canadian movies. This is another Canadian one from my boys, the Black Fawn Films boys. Yeah. They're rad. I love. I think, well, I've said this before. If you haven't heard the story, I met them at the Calgary Underground Film Festival when they were bringing through I'll Take Your Dead. And then I, separately but not part of Black Fawn Films, some of the producers also produce other Canadian films outside of Black Fawn Films. So they were... or just the distribution. I don't know how it all works, because they're a part of Harpoon, which was fucking rad, and I would love to do on this show. It is a perfect movie for our platform as well. I would love to talk. That's the movie that Black Fawn sent me for the 24-hour stream that I did. So I had a whole bunch of Harpoon like limited edition like stickers made in VHS with the Harpoon thing, and like postcards from the movie and the Blu-rays and stuff to give out. So like the fact that I just reached out and they're like, hell yeah, let's do it, man, and they sent me a shit ton of swag. I love them forever for that, for helping me out. But then on top of that, they're creating they have this production package for horror that you can kind of see the way they do things, and the way they keep it within like a certain style or budget, where it's like locked off to like one location or a few locations. The limitations that they do with the writing, where that back door is locked, so you are stuck in this place. It's so well done, and it gives an opportunity for you to appreciate the characters a little bit more, because they get better dialogue, and it's more like it's more driven by what people are saying as well. And I feel like what they started to do in the Oak Room, which we did do, I forget what episode it is, but you can look back and see what we said about the Oak Room. That's another Black Fawn one. This one, I feel like it's the same writer, producer, director, Cody Callahan, who did that movie, did this. And this one is heavily in a bar as well. They did so well in the Oak Room, but this one steps it up and has way more gore, way more fun, and this was a fucking blast, man. I loved it. Yeah,
it's such a man, I love hardcore horror, right? Like, I can sit there and go, yeah, this is dope, but it takes something very special for me to like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like put like, it makes me. I'm way more likely to go and watch horror comedies over and over again repeatedly, because comedies are like my repeat thing. And man, this movie, this is the second time I watched it, because I watched it about a month ago or so. And I was like, this movie's a fucking blast.
The day it went on Shudder, you're like, wait, I heard you say the words Vicious Fun, so I saw it and watched it. I'm like, fuck, man, I want to see it.
I mean, and we did it, and this is just a little bit later. And the guy is, what I was saying before, the Bob from this movie, Ari Melin, he was the bartender.
Yeah.
He was the bartender in the Oak Room. And dude, this guy his fucking acting chops between that movie and this movie are just so fucking good, because this movie, like,
he gets to do it. He gets to go and do a few different things in this movie, and show his range too. It's awesome.
he was really serious in that movie in Oak Room, but this movie he's just doing like all the killers in this movie, because there are multiple killers, are very like purposely cliche characters because of what is going on with it.
Here,
and
I'll say the synopsis so it makes a little more sense.
Let me say real quick.
Yeah.
And his thing is, because I was gonna forget if I don't.
No, do it.
His thing is he's basically Christian Bale in American Psycho, and it's fucking perfect. It's because
nice.
the fucking
the
coat and all that stuff is So yeah. So okay,
I love that.
Go ahead and read the synopsis. Yeah. Josh got confused.
Yeah.
I don't know. The new IMDb is weird. This is what we're getting to.
Okay. Joel. Wait, what's that second word?
I don't. A caustic.
A caustic 1980s film critic from National Horror Magazine. Oh yeah, a National Horror Magazine.
Yeah.
Finds himself unwittingly trapped in a self-help group for serial killers. With no other choice, Joel attempts to blend in or risk becoming the next victim. And I love that, just that premise in general. It sounds like, because he's the critic writer for the horror magazine, it sounds like one of the stories that he thought up in the movie itself is the premise of this movie. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Like the opening scene where you meet him and he's being like us. We're just like we're film critics for the horror genre specifically, and I just love that it opens up with him being such a fucking prick to the producer that's obviously made just shit movies for the last 3 or 4, and he's just like, come on, man, fuck you. You should be doing a Taxi Driver. Yeah, Taxi Driver. Like, starts coming up with an idea. It's so funny.
The best part about that is, like, he's like sitting there and he's like, why is nobody doing this? And he's like giving this producer dude shit, because he's like, oh, all your movies are just slow moving killers. And he's like, you need to do a Taxi Driver. And the fucking Taxi Driver works with every single character up until Bob comes in. And Bob's like, but don't you have to like dispatch and like, tell them where you're taking people? Or he's like, and it's so good, because it's like, it works perfectly in the universe, because Bob at some point they're like has 180 IQ, and it's like they so well sell this, like it's funny because you have this universe where like these characters are all very, very like different, and basically you have the characters in this serial killer self-help group are all very like, they're stereotypical. Like, one of the guys is like basically Jason or Michael Myers or something like that. He's a big old brute. You have like the Asian assassin who like is like lies in wait. You have like the Bob character who's very American Psycho, like I said. You have an accountant guy who's very like, oh, he's like boring and normal, and then he dresses up like a cat clown, like he's like John Wayne Gacy kind of thing.
But that's Julian Richings. Like he's so good in everything I've ever seen him in, especially these Canadian movies. I feel like Ari Millen stepped it up even more, probably because he was in the room, and it's like, he's Canadian like royalty to me, or he's not Canadian. I keep saying Canadian royalty, but just like, I feel like he's an honorary Canadian to me. And I also love that we have the classic on this show. It happens so freaking often. This insanely stupid cop like trope is played to a T in this one again. And I had to bring that up. I love it so much.
The one cop is basically like the viewer too, which is hysterical. He's the one who's kind of like explaining horror to the other cops and stuff like that, and you're just like, oh my god. And it's quite
delightful
when you combine horror with other elements or other genres. It's just like, oh my god, I fucking love it. And it's this movie, like, Black Fawn knows their wheelhouse so well, like from these two movies, like that, like they're just like, okay, we're gonna do this where we know exactly what we're gonna do. We know exactly what kind of budget. I mean, we talked about it. Like, they did the Oak Room. They did 2 bars by doing a rotating set just to save like on money and do all this stuff.
I love that we know that.
Yeah.
Like they DM'd us after listening to the episode, and we're like, "Oh, that's awesome!" Blah blah blah. This is how we did that, and this is how we did that. And I'm like, "Ah, I would love some behind the scenes photos to see that." They're like coming right up, and then their feed after that was like awesome behind the scenes photos of the set of everything. That's freaking rad.
Dude. It's funny because like I think it was Joe Bob on the In Search of Darkness Part 2 documentary that's on Shudder. He's talking about with horror comedy, it has to be like 30% horror and to 70% comedy. And because like you still need to be like, tense and scared and worried and all that stuff. And this movie nails that like balance so well, because you have this character who the main character is played by Evan Marsh as Joel. And he's such a, you kind of hate him at the beginning of the movie because he's such a fucking like unlikable, like dweeb. Like he's in love with his girl, like his roommate, but like she doesn't want anything to do with him because she just walks all over him. She likes him as a friend, but she's like whatever. And he's just so like, he's got no spine at the beginning of the movie, right? And this whole experience kind of gives him a lot, and it gives him that, just gives him the ammunition or gives him the experience to go in and like be a real person. And he's like, finally, he's not writing about horror, but he's experiencing horror through, everything that happens in this movie.
Okay. But I just got to bring up something. Psycho Gorman, because these guys are all attached somehow with Psycho Gorman as well. Next Black Fawn film is in production right now. It's called Death Valley, and it's written and directed by Psycho Gorman. The guy who played Psycho Gorman is writing and directing the next Black Fawn film. Yes!
Oh my God. Okay.
It is called Death Valley.
Black Fawn. We need an interview with him. He needs to come on this podcast, and all we're gonna do is go off about Hunky Boys for an hour and a half. But like, we will talk about the new movie too. But so Black Fawn, we need that to happen now. We love him, and but dude, I honestly think one of the best scenes in this entire movie, and you can tell me if you agree, when the Fritz, the accountant clown character, played by Julian, he's walking outside and he does that weird walk because the cop car or the car drove by before, and he's like hee, and he like does this weird little walk, and I'm just like, I fucking love it. Also, this movie has some fucking pretty gnarly kills, man. Like, pretty like legitimately gnarly kills, including the one that sticks out, I think, a lot is the fucking nail kill is pretty fucking hardcore. It's like this movie it's got gore and blood in it, but they do it in a way that like they let your kind of imagination go with a lot of it. And I think that probably saved them on like, again, I don't think any of Black Fawn's like movies have huge budgets, right? They have like, like small to medium budgets. And so they're like,
well, it's all small Canadian budgets,
really. Yeah, exactly.
Bills as well. So
yeah, but they're doing all these really cool, unique things, and they're doing it while being able to, like, just pulling out like intestines and stuff like that, and just being able to like make it like recyclable and recycled in this movie and stuff like that. But man, the dialogue in this movie is like really, really good, and we're gonna we'll probably spoil the plot better in a little bit, but the dialogue in this movie made me laugh so many good lines that are just really funny. Like the whole I tweeted about it yesterday when I was rewatching it. Like, you never judge another man's mustache or something like that when he's just yelling about the mustache.
That felt a lot like Psycho Gorman style comedy bit for me. Like that.
Yeah.
That's definitely a fake mustache.
You never question a man. They're so the cops are the biggest idiots in the entire movie, and it's actually fucking hysterical because it's like okay. what I'm confused about is this is another like I think Canadian movie that they're setting up and like it's in the United States.
Yeah,
but it's so Canadian.
It wasn't blatantly Canadian like the Oak Room was. They were talking about Winnipeg and Moose Jaw and stuff. So,
but at the very end of the movie, they drive off in a car with Ontario license plates, and it's the most Canadian thing ever. But they're like because the one character Amber Goldvard plays Carrie. Is that her? That she's the one who's like the main girl, right? And
yeah,
she,
I love how everyone brings up her eyeliner. Like absolutely everyone brings it up. You're so tough, probably because of that eyeliner.
It's like the whole like 90s. Like this is another movie in the 80s, but like it's that 90s like emo thing like this started in the like late 90s, early 2000s, like Good Charlotte and shit like that. You know, all the emo shit, the My Chemical Romance and stuff like that. But yeah, she's like. Oh, maybe she's like she has that kind of 80s punk vibe, right? Like with the leather jacket and stuff like that.
She was looking great, man.
Yeah, she does. But man, it's so like she plays like this character that has a lot that surprises you in the movie, and you're like, damn, she's like, there's just so many like well-written characters in this movie, and they just the
main character is just what he's wearing too. Like it's so you can tell he's just a huge movie buff. It was such an 80s nostalgic look, straight from Back to the Future meets every shirt that I own underneath and stuff. Yeah. Like just a horror buff, right?
It was a cover for the magazine he writes for, the Vicious.
I know, but it was
Fanatic.
perfection.
Yeah. It reminds me a lot of like Creep Show and like Tales from the Crypt and stuff like that, like the old comic booky kind of things.
Yeah.
And he it's funny how like you're talking about how smart he thinks he is at the beginning of the movie, because he's selling that movie like synopsis to that producer, and then he goes home and he's like his roommate's out, and he's like sitting there with a tape recorder and just like plotting this movie, and he's like he's the smartest motherfucker in the world. He's like, the rain comes down like acid, and the white windshield wipers slash like knives. And it's funny because when they play it back later on in the movie, like, what was he trying to do with this? and just busting this dude's balls because he's so ridiculous. He's so insane too, because it makes me laugh because he's like at some point he's trying to explain all this shit to the cops, and they're like, yeah, okay, explain more, and they're all just like, this guy's a complete fucking crazy person.
Honestly, the movie you just got a screener for sounds like the exact movie that the guy was making fun of in this movie: Sleep, Walk, Kill.
Yeah, the slow moving kill. Yeah. It's funny. Maybe we'll do that next week. I don't know.
I'm totally down, man.
Yeah, I'm down too. We need to go back to Japanese movies, but we'll do that in a little bit. It's funny because I was gonna.
We had it going really good, back and forth. But to be honest, just being chaotic is more my style too. So
yeah, it's us, man. Yeah, and it's funny because I was gonna do Tetsuo the Iron Man, and then Totemly, and his podcast is back up and running now, called Handle of Scare, which just joined the Slash and Cast podcast network.
High five.
High five. They have a cool format where they do like a month of like fears of phobias in their movies, and they're
cool.
They did a bunch of they did 4 technology phobia movies, and the Tetsuo was one of the ones they did. So I'm like, I'll maybe at some point we'll go back to that one, but like, it sounds right up our alley. It sounds bonkers as shit, but sounds
hell yeah, man.
Man, I have to say it's funny. Like, this movie does a thing that I always love in horror. They did a good.
I definitely want to see A Tale of Two Sisters too.
That's South Korean. We're going back to the South Korean and I'm cool with that too.
Yeah.
This movie does something that I am always a fan of when they do it well. A head crush. They do this head crush scene in this movie with a desk that's fucking gnarly.
But it's so throwaway too. Just wait 1 second. Wham! Yeah. Like so fucking. It was like punk rock. I don't know. She's just so punk rock.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's dude. It's so good. And like they do a lot of cool stuff like with little things that aren't like. They do a lot with a little in this movie, right? Like the guy getting his fingers chopped off at one point is like a lot with a little. The guy getting strangled with intestines, a lot with a little. And they just do so much with like, and they do something in this movie that I really enjoy, where they hardly anything they do is like isn't for a reason, right? Like they have the knife throwing scene that they call back to later on in the movie, stuff like that. It's just like, it's why they have so much attention to detail in this movie, and it's just like, it's perfect, man. Because like we talked about it, the Oak Room. They build this world, and they do that again in this movie. They build a world where these serial killers are like everywhere across the country, and they've met for this like self-help, like what do they call it, a regional retreat or something like that. They called it in the movie. And
there's a callback to another Canadian movie, Random Acts of Violence. We got the face mask, the welder's mask thing as well, used again as the killer's mask thing, which I loved.
It was funny because that's what I thought about, and that was one of the more unique things with that movie. And like, I wonder because like they gave that character, the Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, kind of just like a random like rage killing machine. They gave him. I think that was probably one of my like it's not even an issue, but like I think that they could have made that guy's outfit like a little cooler, but it worked, right? And it did totally. Like again a lot with a little like, you know, it's probably way easier to go down.
Black Fawn, honestly, like if you know how to light a movie and you know what lenses to use, Black Fawn's whole package, the producing package, always looks so much better than so many other movies, and that's how they get away with doing a lot with a little, because it always lit so fucking well every scene. And it just especially those bar scenes, like they know how to add ambiance. And like as you see, you're looking at me with a whole bunch of blue lights behind me, and like I can turn on other light. I'm obsessed with lighting and getting it right, and like adding to the aesthetic of a shot, like photography wise. You can do so fucking much with so little now, and so cheap too, with like RGB lights or just weird other lights that are sold on Amazon and shit, and like add so much to a shot. And they do it every fucking time. I notice it instantly. Fuck, this lighting is great. Like, and again, it was amazing in this.
Well, dude, the writing they use is always fucking fantastic too. Like with the Oak Room, that movie was all sold on storytelling, and this movie is all sold on these characters who are portraying these like the stereotypes of these movie villains from the 80s specifically, right? And so like they just write their fucking movies for exactly how the movie's going to be perfect for what they're aiming at, and they do such a good job with it. Like you said, the directing, like they never, like both these movies we've talked about, they don't like waste time with shots. They do, like everything is timed perfectly in like it's funny, man, because like you go from like we talked about like we're going off about Psycho Goreman again, but like the directing chops of that movie
every day.
But it's the directing chops of that movie going from like the people who did that after The Void. Like The Void is a completely serious movie, and it's the same kind of thing here. Like with like this movie compared to like the Oak Room, you have a movie that is done where you have like a completely serious tone, and then you come in a more like, you know, not taking itself seriously, but having a good time with a trope from the 80s kind of thing, and just running with it, but just running with it so well. I like every time I laugh at a horror movie because it is generally funny, and not because it's like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. It makes me happy. So it's like, it was funny. I was watching Twitter today, and people were posting GIFs of a thing that WWE's doing where they have this like evil doll that's running around right now, and they have the doll, they have a doll winking at some point, and I'm like, that is the worst thing I've ever seen. And they put this on television like it's like it's scary, and it's just like, oh my God,
that's
guys.
something I watched actually. I watched You Can't Kill David Arquette, that documentary he did a couple years ago. That was fucking great, by the way.
Dude. So that thing it's funny because the other side of that with Nick Gage, and Nick Gage is like the biggest, like one of the biggest, like that dude has got blown up over the last 6 months because they did a Dark Side of the Ring about him. And dude, you want to talk about horror in real life? That motherfucker runs around and chops people's heads up with in real life with light tube things, which is where it goes on that David Arquette documentary, because Arquette freaked the fuck out and almost got stabbed in the jugular. He almost died.
Yeah,
no, he didn't die. He almost died.
He almost died. Yeah. They showed it in the documentary, and it was he was losing a fuck ton of blood.
He freaked the fuck out while it was happening, and he
got out of the ring and then was got back in the ring, got pinned, and then left. I was like,
he freaked the fuck out, and it was like, that dude is Nick Gage, man. You go watch the Dark Side Ring, the Ring about that, which I think they're on YouTube, but they were on Hulu at some point. And go watch that thing about him. That dude is, man. It's funny, because he's got this weird vibe, but that motherfucker goes in, puts in, and he does shit in the wrestling ring, and you're like he just wrestled a transgender wrestler on Saturday night, and put on a hell of a show, and it was talking about transgender rights and stuff like that, and he's the dude is dope as fuck. He's crazy. Nice. And he's not exactly the he's a very blue collar individual is really what it comes down to. But yeah, that documentary is I need to watch that one because again,
it's
I watched
on Netflix,
the Dark Side.
Man. I was looking for it, and I was like, oh wait, it's on Netflix, because it came to the Calgary Underground Film Festival, brought it to a drive-in experience during COVID, and I was like, oh sick, I want to go, and it's sold out fucking in half a second. I was like, god damn it. So I didn't know it was going to be on Netflix so soon, so I was stoked to find it there. So go and check that out. It's worth the watch, man.
Yeah, if you're interested at all in wrestling, especially because Arquette, this is that and him as being an actor. It's funny because now I was hearing about that Val documentary about Val Kilmer that's going around now.
Oh, I haven't heard about it.
Yeah, and so I guess during Val Kilmer's career, he records a lot of stuff, and I don't know if you know, he had throat cancer, and it's he recovered, but his voice is fucked up now.
Oh shit.
So there's a whole documentary about with all this stuff that he shot personally, and then they had he didn't put it together, but he shot all this stuff, and then they had his son narrated it, as I say, narrated, but
sounds about right.
English is hard. English is hard, guys. So
Rob, is that your name? Rob. There's a silent B. Rob.
Rob Johnson.
Are you saying Pan or Pam?
God damn, man. English is hard. I'm tired.
Pam? Pan?
You're not my supervisor. But yeah, so that's another one that was out there along those lines. And yeah, it's those actors, those real personal things are always really interesting for me because especially when there's tragedy going in. There's a documentary about Steve Gleason, who's was a football player who got famous for a very particular moment in a playoff game for the Saints, but years ago, and he came down with ALS, I think is what he's got.
Okay.
And it just how it shuts down your body and everything like that. And it was just, that documentary made me cry. But so it's all that stuff. So.
Well, in the documentary, they talk about David Arquette, he's typecast now because of Scream, and Scream came out at the time, it's the end-all be-all slasher genre of film for me, just because of when it came out, 96, I believe, or some 90. Yeah,
it's 96. Yeah, 96.
And I was born in 85, so like what, 11, 12 years old, something when it came out. It was a perfect, like, just get you into horror age as well for like a brand new genre film to come out. And like, he's now been typecast, and he's crazy too. And he went a little too all in on the wrestling thing. Then WWE gives him the fucking belt out of nowhere.
WCW.
Which just destroyed his career in
WCW.
Oh yeah, it was WCW, right?
Yeah. That was one of the last things that like put WCW over the end of like, oh fuck kind of things. Like that was the end of the Monday Night Wars of WCW.
Well,
versus
he's
WWF.
gonna be in the next Scream movie too, so like it just.
Okay, explain to me. That movie is done, and they're releasing it in January instead of October. Why? That movie needs to be pushed up and needs to be put out in fucking October, man. Why? Because do they not want to compete with fucking Halloween? Is that what it is? I think
they're putting it out at the same time as Halloween?
No, they're not. It's coming out in January.
Oh, 2022.
Yeah. So I'm like,
it's because it's a big enough name. They think it can stand on its own. It's got a lot of big names in it, and who knows? It's even got like Dylan. What's his name from that Netflix show that's big?
The Suicide movie? Or Suicide 13 Reasons Why?
Yeah, 13 Reasons. Yeah.
Yeah. I never watched that show, never will watch that show. Like, I don't like shows.
We got Don't Breathe 2 coming out, like, in a few weeks or something here, too, right?
Yeah, I need to rewatch that first one. I love it. My wife hasn't seen it, so I'm going to probably get a copy of it and just go watch it with her because she has never seen it. That movie, man...
And apparently Stephen Lang read Avatar 5 script and cried.
Really?
That's what I've read a quote. Don't breathe. He couldn't breathe. 2. He had to cry. I don't fucking know. I was trying to go somewhere with it. But he read the Avatar 5 script, which is coming out in 2028. Come on. Suck a dick.
And then chop it off.
Yeah, and then fucking chop it off. Jesus Christ.
And then fucking chop it off. Okay, so basically, we're gonna spoil it now, but like, if you have Shudder,
segue. We totally ADD'd away from the movie and talked about wrestling for a bit, chopping dicks off, and that's the perfect segue back to Vicious Fun. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, so go watch it. It's on Shudder, and if you don't have Shudder, get Shudder, because if you're listening to this, you obviously like horror, and Shudder is the fucking best. So get it, and listen, and have a good time. So we're not. I mean, there's not that much to dive into about, but there are specific moments I really would like to talk about where I kind of generally talked about. So this movie starts off with we have a character getting picked up like at an old like hotel, and the guy driving the car is super creepy, and he has a bunch of like kitchen knives. It was kitchen knives in the back of his car, right? It's like an old like
he
Subaru.
Was the creepiest looking of them all. He was Frank or whatever they were waiting for.
Or
Peter. What was his
or
name?
Paul or something. I don't fucking know.
Fuck. It was
whatever. But he picks this girl up, and then like he locks the fucking doors once she gets in the car, and he's a predator, and he's like, oh, I got my prey now. And then she's got this is the girl that's got the switchblade, and she switchblades out and then just
Phil. It was Phil.
Yeah, Phil. Yeah, it started with a P. We got that much, but yeah. And she fucking goes ham on this guy. This is Carrie. Carrie goes.
The mouth knife is always a fucking gravy for me. I love it.
It's always got that like really cool look, and like you could do that thing where it's like you're just gagging into the bottom of the mouth, right? Yeah. And then you could just put something in the mouth and make it look like it's stabbing through. It looks good and probably not easy, but like you can do it fairly easily, right? And so then you go to our main character, Evan Marsh plays Joel, and we talked about it before. He's doing he's trying to do an interview for this magazine that he works for. It's called Vicious Fanatic. And it's a horror magazine from the 80s, like in the vein of, like Fangoria and stuff like that. And he's talking to this director, and this director does not give two shits until he starts telling, he's like, he's like giving him shit about all his, doing the same thing over and over again. He's like, what would you be doing? And then this idiot tells him like a plot for his movie, which later leads to Taxi
Cab Drill.
Taxi Cab Driller.
Yeah.
It's Driller, wasn't it? Yeah. I don't know. And
did you watch the mid-credit scene?
No. I turn all these movies off and miss all the credit scenes because I always forget that they're like, I don't know.
There was a mid-credit scene with the producer guy, and he's just on the phone in his office, and it's him phoning his other like producers. He's like, I got the greatest idea, and it's like it's Taxi Cab Driller, and then he like blah blah blah. I'm back, baby, and then he hangs up the phone and goes like, fucking asshole.
That's fucking great. That's wonderful.
So good.
Yeah, and this is where our main character Joel is like, he's got this idea that taxi cab killers are the perfect idea because nobody ever notices him or looks at him, and he's like, yeah, that's a good idea. So then he goes home and he gets kicked out basically after he gives the guy his idea, which is you idiot, you just gave this guy who has no morals. Obviously, he's doing like sleazy horror movies in the 80s. He's like Sean S. Cunningham. and he goes home and you figure out he's like got this roommate, this pretty roommate that he's in love with, but she just fucking walks all over this dude. She's out on a date and she comes home and he's like trying to be casual about everything. And she comes home and he's like, she's like, can I use the TV tonight? We want my friend's coming over. We wanted to watch. What did she say they wanted to watch? Some 80s television show they wanted to watch. And like after this guy was trying to suggest, he's like, hey, I was thinking we could like, run a beta tape, like a beta player, get some
beta machine.
Yeah, beta machine, get some movies, And, I could start like, fingering your asshole with my thumb. And like basically kicks him out. And when she kicks him out, the guy that she had come home with is still there. And her friend came over to watch that television show with, and he jumps in the back of the taxi that she came over in and says to follow the dude. So they go to the middle of nowhere to this old Chinese restaurant, and this idiot, Joel, I love you, but you're an idiot. He starts like recording his conversation with this guy because he wants to like. This is the most like when guys like fall in love with Twitch streamers and stuff like that, and like do it like, oh, I love you. Would you ever go out with me? And like just the creepy. This is the kind of shit that this dude's doing, in like the mid '80s when Twitch didn't exist. But he sits down with this dude that she was out with, and he's like starts talking with him, and like it gets to the point where like the guy starts making fun of him because like his roommate was talking about him to the killer guy, the dude, and he basically implies that she blew him in his car in the right in front of their building. And this guy, I love this is Ari Millen plays Bob, who is the best. He
got to shine so much in this.
Yeah. He's playing Christian Bale in American Psycho. That's all I could say. Like he's like a scumbag who like puts on all these personalities and everything like that in different personas. And then he tells Joel he's gonna like he's like, this round's on me, and then he leaves and he puts his whole tab on Joel's thing, and I was sitting there. How much was this motherfucker's bar tab? Because he's like sitting there and drank more than I've drank in like a week in my entire life. He's like gone through. He like tells the guy to leave the fucking bottle of whiskey at the bar, and he's just like
he's drinking his sorrows away, man.
Yeah. He's got the 2 martinis and he's like swirling around drinking martinis.
I love how anytime it's like the whiskey or whatever, he's just drinking it. But anytime it's like the martini glass, he's like and like spits it back in. It was really funny.
And then he's fucked up, and then he goes and calls his roommate, and he's like, I don't need you. and like she's like, have you been drinking? I was drinking fire. Like he's the whiskey. He's all like burns his throat. And then like she's like, I'm gonna come pick you up. Where are you at? And then he like vomit like in these kind of movies fucks with me worse than like most other things. And he projectile vomits on the fucking phone.
And it looks fucking real.
Yeah. And like how it like short circuits the phone, which I'm like, I don't know how much I believe that would actually happen. Maybe I don't know where you get a payphone to vomit on to check if that would be the case.
Well, this is Canada, so.
But it's not supposed to be Canada.
Are you sure?
Because Carrie's supposed to be like a U.S. agent, something kind of like it. And then like at one point, Bob plays an FBI agent. But
oh right.
Yeah. And then so Bob, like, do you have counties in Canada? Do you have counties, or is it just like?
What's a county?
They talk about. So like counties are like little municipal like areas where like you have like you pay taxes for that county, you have like sheriffs for that county, and so like it's like just like local government. They mention counties in that too.
It would
so
be
that's
city.
why that's yeah. Well, that's
or
they have different
or province.
Yeah. So anyways, so then Joel goes and passes out in a fucking like a janitor closet, and when he wakes up, he walks out and the building's locked down, and he's there with David Koechner is in this, and if you don't know, you know David Koechner from things like he was an Anchorman, and he was in a lot of the things with like Will Ferrell and stuff like that.
He's hilarious.
He played the sportscaster in Anchorman. He's done a whole lot of comedy.
When I saw that he was in this, I was like, this is going to be fucking funny.
Yeah. And it's funny, he's not in it very long. It's obviously they had him for like a day or two.
Yeah.
And he just nails all his lines because he's so fucking like good and professional. But they basically walks into the serial killer, anonymous meeting, and it's funny because it's like there's 2 chairs missing when he comes out, and so they're like, oh, this is Paul. Was it Paul we said, or the guy that got killed at the beginning?
Phil?
Was it Paul? Phil. And so he has to take on the persona of Phil. Because if he doesn't, he's like, oh, fuck, I'm in trouble. So he goes off about his, all these guys are like killing people. Like David Koechner plays Zachary, and he's like kind of running the meeting. He's like a CIA assassin, basically. And which is the funniest part about that is like, why are you going to serial killer anonymous meetings or whatever the fuck this is when you work for the government? That just doesn't seem like it works very well. But all these guys are killers. There's like the accountant clown guy. There's the chick Carrie who like is very like punk rocky. They have the giant psycho Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees killer. They have the Japanese guy who kills people and then like eats their livers and shit like that or kidneys. So Joel has to he goes off and he's like, oh, I'm the taxi cab killer. And it works until Bob shows up, like when they're gonna end this meeting, and he basically calls bullshit because there's the line a little bit later on where Carrie tells him that Bob's got like 180 IQ, which is like a fucking Sheldon level genius. Like that's how smart this dude is. And he calls him out on his plan because he's like, well, yeah, you have to call in the dispatch, and he tries to say he does it when he's off duty or like it's weird shit, and like why do you have the taxi cab then? And so they all go after him, and him and Carrie end up getting locked in the kitchen. And at some point, like, bro, they all turn on Zachary, David Koechner's character, because he won't let them just kill him right away. And they pretty gnarly, like the big Jason Voorhees guy just like slams him or puts a stick, I don't know, or like a skewer or something through his neck. And then they hit him in the eyeball with, what did they hit him in the eyeball with? Is it the needle? The needle, which the needle. They've loved the eye gags.
They did a lot of eye
man.
gags in this one, yeah.
Yeah. Sure. There's like 2 of them, and it's just like, because eye gags are hard to watch, but they do a good job because they're also like, they could be hokey if you don't do them right.
Yeah.
So they kill David, Zachary's character, Zachary, and when they do, Joel and Carrie go hide in the kitchen, and this is where they set up, like, Carrie kind of tells him she works for some government agency where she's basically running around killing these serial killers, and it's a cool setup because it gives it that, like, she's the badass woman in this movie, and it's kind of like a final girl kind of role, but like not. It's like that kind of thing where it's a final girl who like is like got to be kick ass, and like she's running around doing stuff like now after. And so they basically they get attacked, and they figured out the dude from the beginning is in the freezer in there. The clown dude gets his fingers chopped off by trying to go in, and then they take out the Asian guy. Hideo is the assassin / cannibal dude. They choke him out with intestines, which is pretty gnarly.
I love that he comes in and the first thing he does is like, let me, what the fuck? And he licks the intestine, and obviously it was in there
like cold,
dead. Yeah, cold and gross. So he likes his meat fresh.
Dude, that mask. I was sitting there with my wife who was watching part of this with me, and I'm like, I was trying to figure out how he wears that mask, because it's like the kabucha mask or something like that. Like,
it just kind of sticks there.
Anyway, I was wondering if he was like biting onto it or something like that, like a mouth guard or something like that. But the mask is fucking killer, man. It's really cool looking. Very Japanese, I think.
Totally.
So they take out Hideo's character, who's running around like looking like he's like killing people with like these high quality steak knives, basically what they are. That's what they look like, right? Like, am I crazy?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. So after they take him out, they
but Joel you are crazy.
I am crazy. This is true. This is true. Joel ends up being an idiot and pulling the fire alarm. So the cops show up, and this is where like Bob is a genius once again. He goes outside with the remaining there's like 3 of them left, and he calls 911, and he's like, there's a crazy woman, and she pulled the fire alarm, and like completely pins everything that just happened on Joel and Carrie. So cops show up, they haul those 2 off to the jail, and then this is where like Carrie's like being the badass she is. They're like, what's her name? Jane Doe. Won't give him anything.
Just types it out and doesn't even think.
Yeah. The cops are such idiots in this movie.
Like,
and then Joel's
next
like
level fucking stupid.
Yeah.
They go up. I was trying. I said this one time, but I think we should like look back at the movies we did and try and come up with like a top 10 list for weird trope things, like dumbest cops in movies and stuff. Like, this is like close to top, if not top.
I think they have to be the dumbest cops. Either like that and like Psycho Gorman. Like the cops in Psycho Gorman were
they're
pretty
really dumb. But Thanksgiving one.
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. I think the cops were the dumbest in that movie, probably.
Yeah, probably. But they did this intentionally in this movie.
They do it intentionally in everyone. But that's what I love about the trope. It's so good.
Yeah. And so basically, Joel's going off and trying to tell him the whole story. There's like 2 cops who are like these badass, like hard ass cops, and then there's the idiot cop who, I mean, they're all idiots, but the guy who's like reading the horror magazine and explaining the tropes and everything. And Joel like ends up getting his phone call, calls his roommate, and tries to tell her that Bob is a psycho, the one that she like blew in the parking lot. And they end up in jail in different cells. And she headbutts Joel to get like a paperclip so she could get out. Bob and the remaining 2 killers show up, and these cops, man, are fucking insanely stupid, and I love it. So like the 2 cops are Bob takes the 2 cops and puts them into into the captain's office with him, and they're like drinking scotch and like talking about these people. But the clown guy played by Julian Richings, his character's name's Fritz. He sneaks up onto the 3rd cop and injects him with this poison or this like paralyzing agent, right?
Yeah.
And it's cool because he got his fingers chopped off like during the Chinese restaurant scene. He was the one who lost his fingers, and so he's got like. He kind of like, it reminds me of like the end of Chucky 2, where he like sticks the knife into his, hand, or because he lost his hand. And, but he puts the needle with his like paralyzing agent in it, and he stabs the cop in the neck, and then does the groovy fucking gnarly scene where he fucking nails this giant like railroad spike into his fucking forehead. It's not a railroad spike, but it's like a big old nail, and he just goes. Yeah. He puts it there, and he's like, the guy can't do anything, and you see his eyes, and you see the guy did a really good job of like being like, oh fuck, and he goes, go boom, and drink. Like, I wish the only thing with that was I would have been like, oh yeah, if you would have hit it a couple more times, it would have been even more gnarly. You know, like you just pounded the nail in a couple more times. But they did like what they needed to, and it like he's bleeding all over the floor, and Fritz drags the guy off. And then the lights go out, and one of the cops who was in with Bob goes to try to fix it, and then he gets fucking destroyed by the Jason Voorhees kind of character. Robert Mallet plays Mike, who's like the guy with the welder's mask and everything. Motherfucker's huge, by the way. Is like huge. Like he is a huge dude, and he well, look at it now. He was a wrestler back in the 80s. He kills the one cop, and then Bob takes out the other cop by jamming 2 pencils in in each ear hole, which is fucking gnarly. Like it just shows Bob like being the like just does whatever he needs to do to kill. He doesn't like have like everyone else in the movie is very has their methods. Like Mike goes and kills like co-eds out of summer camps and shit like that. But yeah, he just stabs this guy in the ears to get with 2 pencils, kills him. So at this point, yeah, it's so good. The roommate shows up. But Joel had gone home because basically Carrie was like, this is too dangerous for you. But then he realized what happened and comes back. So he goes in and he saves so Carrie goes in and fucks up Mike, stabs him with a machete through his welding mask, which is pretty dope. She kicks his ass, he's just big and slow, right? And she takes him out. Fritz tries to stab Carrie with the paralyzing agent needle, and this is when Joel gets back, and he warns her and stops, and he ends up getting Carrie fucking paralyzes him with his own needle, and then he's on the ground, and this is where you're talking about where she's just drops the desk on his head and is like. Here, wait a second, and just flops, and his head just gets the corner of his head goes right in, the corner of the desk goes right in and just fucking annihilates his head. I always like a good head crushing scene as long as it is done well, and they did this really well.
Yeah, dude.
And at this
all
point,
the gags in this, like you said, they did a lot with a little, and the pencils in the ear, that could be it clever cutting. But it all feels more vicious and not cheap or anything like that. It just they did a really good job.
With the pencils, you just go and you put them in, act like you hit them with your hands on the side of your head, right? And then you just cut back to them being pulled off, and or you don't even have to do that. You just put them in prosthetics or whatever in the sides of his head, and then you come back and he pulls it off, and they're there in his head, and it's a good kill. Carrie's like, oh, you came back, and then Bob comes out and he stabs Carrie with her own little knife. And they'll run out, and Joel's carrying her out, and Bob runs after him. What did Joel hit him with? Something, right? He hit him with the phone. He's like, here's your phone call, bitch, or whatever.
Yeah, here's your one call.
Yeah.
Wham.
Yeah. With the old 80s brick phone. And they run out and get in his roommate's car, and then they hit Bob with the car as they're running out, because Bob gets in front of them, right? And they all take Carrie to the hospital, and Carrie's gonna survive. And then they figure out Joel sees a bunch of blood, and follows the blood, and it's Bob there trying to kill Carrie. Because Carrie, she has this whole notebook where she's documenting all these serial killers she's taken out, because
she's Dexter.
They don't. Yeah, basically. Yeah, she kind of talks about it, but doesn't really go into it in too depth. She basically had she said someone that she was in love with or endeared to her when she was a kid got taken out by a serial killer that she called Mr. Midnight was his name, I think.
Yes.
Mr. Midnight was the
Something
name
like
that
that.
they used. Yeah. So yeah, she's Bob's trying to kill her. Comes Joel gets in there and stops him and basically wakes her up, and then they beat the shit out of him with a bedpan. They fucking go to town on Bob with a bedpan. And then Carrie stabs Bob like with he's got a scalpel, and she uses his own hand and stabs him like hardcore. She's like prison shanking this motherfucker. She's like stab, 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 stab. Like she stabs him like 30
I love how
times.
he gets the slow death too. Like any like real main bad guy in a horror movie, they die the slowest.
Yeah. Well, but she stabs him like in the liver 30 times, and then she pulls the knife out and stabs him in the eye. And here's the second like eye gag in the movie, and they do he like pulls it out and then pulls the eyeball out. The eyeball didn't look great because you could tell like the color was just blue, but it's awesome anyways because of they're not trying to make it look like a super realistic eyeball, right?
No.
And they go off, and Joel goes off with Carrie, and she's like, hey, I could use an apprentice. So now Joel is gonna go and be a apprentice for Carrie, and they go into one more scene. It's a little bit later, and Joel is wearing the most hideous Hawaiian shirt of all time, and he goes in this movie theater, and some guy's all nervous. He's like, we're closed, and he ends up being a serial killer type dude, and Carrie comes in and like axes him in like the side of the face and takes him out. And Joel has this mustache that looks really bad on him, but I like it.
I just wore Oh wait, I gotta say a quick story about a fake mustache that I just wore on the weekend. My parents just got this cottage on this lake, and there's like a whole bunch of different phases and like a bunch of people out there and stuff, but every August apparently they do Halloween in August because no one goes up in the winter because it's too cold, and they do Halloween at home and stuff, right? So August is Halloween in August, and all the like different cottages and trailers and all that other stuff do like candy for kids, but like more than half of them all had like shots and or something for adults too. So oh my fucking god, was it a gong show? It was so fun, and like we took the girls out. I had some beers and like freaking shots all over the place. I'm like, I had to start being like, no, I've already had too many shots. I don't need more shots.
And you had a really bad mustache during this?
Yeah, like so I brought my Michael Myers costume. And then my mom's like, "Oh yeah, I got this Bluetooth speaker, so you can put on some like creepy music when we're handing out candy and stuff." So I put on my costume and the Mike Myers mask, and then put on the Halloween theme, and walked down the hallway and just destroyed both my daughter's lives. And I wasn't allowed to wear it because, like, honestly, my 2-year-old died, and I've never seen her. Like, she jumped out of her skin, ran to my mom, and I didn't. She was still yelling at me, no mask to this day. So yeah, I had to switch to I don't know, they had some sort of what are those guys that do the bowl things or whatever, the guys with the red things, I don't freaking know, like Spanish type stuff with the hat and
like a mariachi band,
something like that, but
maracas.
No, but it kind of like that. There's like a cool hat, and there was a mustache, and I don't know. Like, I was just like, cool. But then, the mustache didn't fit and didn't stay on, and it looked about as bad as the one in the movie. So
yeah,
came full circle.
Yeah, the best part is at the end when he's in the theater, like he gets back in the car, and she's like, "Oh, you idiot!" And he has to go back in and get the axe. And he also sees the movie poster for the taxi cab driller, which is the idea he produced. Like he gave to that director at the beginning, producer, which is funny because then you talk about the
theaters.
Yeah.
Oh, I just love that it was at a drive-in theater too, because That was my pastime growing up, man. Like that's like still to this day, my favorite thing that I remember from being a kid was sneaking in like in Greece, like in the back under the blankets with my sisters. Oh, it's just the two of us. We got all the candy and shit. Fuck,
that's so funny. Yeah, man, this movie's so much fun. It really is. It's like laugh out loud funny at times. It's gory and brutal, and it's got a good story. And it just shows the love of horror. And man, I really, really enjoy this movie. And I think this movie is like this movie is one of my favorite horror movies for the year. It really is. Like it's one of the ones that I just enjoy. Like Black Fawn, man, you guys are fucking dope. This is another one that's just like you fucking do this indie horror and you just fucking knock it out of the park and just make it such high quality and just do what you know is going to be awesome, and you do a really great job with it. So this movie's fucking dope, and
I can't wait to see what they. Well, fuck, I can't wait for the next one, written and directed by Psycho Gorman himself. Like, come on, I'm there. Yeah. I got my bells on already. I'll have my hunky boy tattoo probably by then, and let's go,
dude. I've been thinking about my starting a second sleeve and like doing all horror stuff, and I'd definitely put some Psycho Gorman on there.
I got nothing but 2 horror sleeves, man.
I know my first sleeve's all Japanese themed things, but like I love it. But man,
it makes sense.
Else, yeah, it does. So we are here. So yeah, I don't know 100%. I want to make sure that movie works for both of us, so that Sleepwalk Kill. Maybe we'll do that. I'll post on our Twitter in a couple days what we're going to do for sure.
Yeah, I'm watching it right now.
Does it work fine?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, then let's do that. Let's do Sleepwalk Kill. How long is it?
It's an hour and 26 minutes.
Okay, dope. Right,
it's just unlisted. If you have the link, you can watch it, right? So
yeah, it's when it's a private with link kind of thing. So
yeah,
we'll talk about that, and it should be a good time. And if anything goes wrong with that, we'll figure something else out, and then we'll put it on our Twitter. So cool. My wife's asking about the dogs. I'm like, nope, I only fed them twice. So I think that's it, man. It was good to be back, just to me and the Josh. My heterosexual life, mate. God, I'm tired.
Heterosexual.
I love you, buddy. Yes. So next week we're doing a movie called Sleepwalk Kill. So it'll be interesting to do, like, especially with a screener type thing. So that'll be cool.
Hey, and if you have screeners or you liked what you heard and you're still here and you have something that you would love for us to potentially take a look at, like Sleepwalk Kill, fucking send it to us, because you know what? We might actually do it, and it would be a fun time, and we love indies this fucking much that we rub our dicks all over them. And oh my God.
Oh, and why I said maybe, because like you talked about it before. If like we watch this and I don't like, it's not good, I don't want to sit here and shit on a movie for like 90 minutes. Like
for sure.
So like it would be like, if this movie is worth talking about, we'll do it. And I don't know, so I don't know much about it. All through Twitter. So here we are. So okay, Josh. You are Josh WRB. Your website is joshwrb.com.
Holy shit.
We have murdermoose.com.
Whoa!
We have our Discord, discord.me/murdermoose, and rate us on iTunes and leave us a review if you can. It'd be fantastic. I think that's basically it, man. Is there anything else you want to go over before we get out of here?
That's about it.
Okay, buddy. Well, I will see you next week. I love your face. Have a good one. And bye!